All right. Welcome to Shooting the Crit, little talk show put on by the Forever DMs. I am Bill Bug. I'm your host today, joined by Gabriel, Patrick, and Jacob, other members of the Forever DMs. Before we get started with some questions sent to us, thankfully by Patrick's TikTok group,
Cult.
we
It's a cult.
cult,
It's
yeah,
100% a
cult.
cult.
It's a cult. Yeah.
We are going to get into a very special, exciting announcement. Jacob, I'll hand it over to you.
Hey, so got some really cool news that has come down our pipeline. Thanks to the Geeks Unleashed that I believe is in chat with us here tonight. We are officially partners with the very cool website Go Figured. If you check out our commands, you will find one that shows you some information here on it at there. You can find a website with some very, very cool minis of sci-fi, fantasy, dark gods, all kinds of really neat stuff. Super cool.
You guys are gonna have to fight some of those in Straterra.
And
are you kidding? I can't wait till we can play at tables, so I can be like, okay, can I go back through this list again?
And very importantly, if you follow that link and use code ForeverDMs in the link, you get 10% off on any order you put in through the store. So be sure and use that link, because who doesn't want 10% off on badass minis? So check them out. Give them a look. They got a lot of really cool stuff coming down their pipeline. We're very excited to be partnering with them. And yeah, keep an eye out for them because it's super cool stuff.
Thanks so much, Geeks Unleashed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, with all that, let's get into some of these questions that have been sent to us. Feel free, as we're going, if you have any questions you want to ask in chat pertaining to this subject, shoot them up. We'll be keeping track of them.
Hey, Bill, what is the subject for tonight?
The subject for tonight that I was going to get into is character creation, specifically how to make memorable characters. Characters your parties are going to enjoy, characters your GMs are going to enjoy, and we are not just talking about Dungeons and Dragons tonight. We are talking about all tabletop RPGs, making characters that will stick with you for a lifetime. So, with that being said, our first question, which is brought to us by a TikToker whose name I'm not going to repeat, that we agreed we will call Big Richard.
Big Richard.
Big Richard! As a storyteller, what details do players give to their characters that you find interesting and gravitate towards? Examples: what's their favorite color? Cultural or aversion to certain schools of magic, or anything like that. So, who wants to take that question first?
I'll jump on it, since I didn't see any hands shoot up. One thing I absolutely love about character creation as a storyteller and as a player is the little details that define who that person is. Great example, there are some really cool cultures in the Eberron campaign setting for Dungeons & Dragons. And there's a culture called the Valinar, or the Teisvar. There are elves that are incredibly martial. And you can very easily pull that piece of culture out and add it to your elf character. So I'm going to offer a challenge. If dude keeps talking trash, he's going to get hit. It's the talk shit, get hit meme. You can very easily take a piece of culture and add it deeply within your character. What I've done specifically with that Valinar is his sword talks. So much like hand sign for the Drow in Faerun, or if you think of the Wheel of Time, the Ale characters, different body positions, different posture positions make different meanings for those who understand them. So where he carries his sword, which is carried in his hand, never on his waist, he always carries the scabbard. If he's holding it at his side, it's neutral. If he crosses it in front of him, he's offering a challenge. If he lays it down in front of him, it is a moment of honor and respect. You can really, really easily add those little details that broaden the characters' horizons and create a really cool, rich, unique experience for the rest of the party as well.
I've got one, especially that
Yeah.
we've used lately. This is kind of like a catch-all, but I really enjoy for characters, and even as a DM making NPCs, researching cultures that are outside of Western European, like standard fantasy, and finding some culture that's like unknown to most people or just very diametrically opposed or different customs, and just picking pieces and researching it and finding out about it. And there are so many things out there, just like Gabe mentioned, mannerisms, speaking ways of culture, and saying hello, gestures, or like aversion to magic or whatever. Like there's so many unique things that go into how a person carries themselves that can make a character so unique.
Oh, going into it, like my whole thing when I come to think about mannerisms of a character, like a memorable character I want to play, throughout my years of experience playing RPGs, I've played, I think, damn near every stereotype when it comes to a character. But so now, when I think of a character I want to play, I think, okay, I want to play a fighter. I want to play a samurai. What can I do that's completely different? Okay, I want to play a samurai that's obsessed with food.
Yeah.
Like he's a good fighter. Yeah, he trained his entire life to be a fighter, but no, he's obsessed with the beauty and everything that is to about the world around him. He's not just a fighter. There's more to him. Fighter is part
Hashtag
of
Jubei Cooks.
yeah, and it's things like that. Like I, one of my favorite characters I played here recently. I played in a game of Dragon Heist. I created a half drow blade singer. Well, going into the study of drow culture, they're not very nice to half breeds. So I completely created a character that was going to be sacrificed to Loth. But they found out he had a talent for magic. So he was trained to be a weapon, and he escaped. He's pretty much escaped the Underdark, escaped that lifestyle. He is trained to be a blade singer, but he hates it. He cannot stand using the blade song. He cannot stand he's trying. He quoted him several times during the game. I just want to find a farm somewhere to live quietly. And
That reminds me of my barbarian that doesn't want to rage.
Yeah, he just keeps getting pulled in these scenarios, and it was this amazing moment in the game, character growth, because he never went into that battle mindset until he got caught up with this group of his party, and it comes to the final leg of the adventure. I'm not going to ruin it for anyone that hasn't played it. And there was a moment where he realized, okay, so the night before he prepared, did not take any spells that normally he used to hide. He took all combat spells, didn't wear his cloak, came down dressed in armor with his bandana with his hair behind his head. And everybody that was in the party was like, we realized at that moment Din had changed. That was like character growth. He had someone to protect.
You mentioned that you realize in that moment, and I think that to spin off of that, that is where, as a storyteller, I love those rich moments. Like if I was a GM in that scenario, the moment Din came into the tavern wearing full armor and ready to rock and roll, like that as a storyteller is just like that's my dessert. I'm just watching.
Game changer. Oh yeah.
You said something in our last Straterra game. For those of you who haven't been able to watch it, I play a mage who leans very heavily into psionics and time magic. And for him, necromancy is a lesser school. He will not touch it. And it's... I actually played in a one-shot the guy who's the reason why he won't touch it. But in our last game, Bill, as the GM, said, I know how Ben feels about necromancy. So you see these necromancy spells in here. Bill and I haven't talked about that particular character detail in so long. But the storyteller brain in the back is going, oh, he remembered that. He remembered that.
Because as a DM, you remember everything that the characters don't like because you use it against them.
Oh, of course.
Or, a character who's untidy and carries all their stuff inside their mandolin case.
And
Or,
yes,
those little details as a storyteller, I gravitate towards. And I try to use them as much as possible.
So
I love that.
If,
it's so good. Go ahead, Jacob.
If I may, to give props to Patrick on this, because ribbon details like these are where I feel like he excels like exceedingly at a lot of characters. And a really small one that took me by surprise in a previous game that we don't have on stream anywhere is when he came in playing a character named Chirp. And Chirp, it turns out, was a coin collector. It was that small little thing. He picked up a coin, took it with him, and that was that. He like on his arm, he was a warforged. He had this collection of coins that he was storing there, and it was it had no impact on the story. It was not a major thing at all. It was this tiny little thing, and I lost my shit. Like, I was like, oh, like, I love him so much more now. And I can't even explain why. I just do, because you have that detail about him, and I know more about him, and it's awesome.
Yep. Ribbon detail is such a cool title for that type of thing.
I use ribbons.
I had not heard that before. I like that a lot.
I use ribbons for describing lots of minor things that don't have a mechanical impact. Just a ribbon is like something unique that just gives it that little...
Oh, it makes you stick out. It makes your character... It gives your character 3D depth.
Yep.
For sure.
What it does. It takes them off the page.
And like Jacob mentioned, he was in that game for what, like 3 sessions?
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't there very long. And like that little detail is enough to give you insight to, like, he jumps through planes and dimensions. Who wouldn't collect coins if you could go through dimensions and collect coins? But you don't know that.
What is the one thing you will find everywhere? Money. Gonna find it and collect it from everywhere. Find it.
And Bill just said it gives that character, 3-dimensional breadth.
Oh, for sure.
And as a storyteller, like, say Chirp shows up in a new place. As a storyteller, I want to find a way to create that opportunity for you. And I feel like that helps me enrich the game for everyone around.
Yeah. It's funny because I think originally I think it was a joke because he's a rogue, and like the rogue is supposed to like loot the bodies. And so I looted the bodies and took 1 coin, and everyone was like, wait, what? Mm-hmm. And it kind of like flipped it on its head, and it gave depth to Chirp, and it's a good moment.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. All right. We covered that one. Everybody feels comfortable. Move on to the second one.
Yeah.
That's what we got.
All right. This one is brought to us by from the TikTok. I think most of these are brought to us from Patrick's TikTok tonight. Tiger Onyx has asked, how do you adapt existing characters or tropes to create something new? I would love to take this one if you guys
have it.
Go for it.
So, one trope that I've gotten so sick of and I wanted to spin on his head is the dead parents. So I created a war cleric who had the thief background. He was a thief. He was a street kid that ended up getting caught because his parents owned a farm and they got ousted. They had to move to the city. They had no money, so he got caught, and for penance, he had to work at the temple. Well, it stuck with him. He ended up becoming a war cleric for the Dawnfather. The thing is, his dad's his best friend. His dad's still alive, mom's still alive. They're taken care of by the temple. He writes home to his dad every adventure to share everything that's going on. And honestly, the inspiration of that, if anyone has ever seen the TV show Metalocalypse, it's an amazing episode when they're all talking about their parents and how much they hate their parents, and it led into their being metal. And you talk to Nathan Explosion, this most metal guy, and he's like, I love my dad.
I love that. I love that moment.
It shows these scenes where he's like going with his dad, and it's like, that was perfect. That's like, to me, that's amazing. It's like, I'm so tired of my parents are dead, I killed them. It's like there's so much more interesting things to do out there.
Also, minor note, as a DM, it's so much more satisfying when their parents are alive because it gives you a target. If their parents are dead, then you don't have anything to take away from them.
And I want to spin off of this because Geeks Unleashed just asked if it was lame to build your character off of something else, and I would say absolutely not. These we're talking about existing tropes, and sometimes you want to spin them on their head, but sometimes you just want to take it and run with it. Let's take the cleric, right? Your warrior cleric. You expect them to charge into battle and be hard hitting, but maybe they always use their spells on the less fortunate. Like they will not use healing spells on the wealthy. They will always lean towards going to a poorer part of town, finding the beggar with his feet, who is with dirty feet, and washing and binding this beggar's feet and healing them. You
It's a
can
nice
take.
ribbon.
Yeah, great. God, I'm going to steal that. Thank you so much. You can take these tropes, oh man, I'm totally blanking right now on the rest of that sentence. But it is not lame to take an existing thing.
No.
Say you want to make Iron Man. Play an artificer armorer with jet boots. Like you are now Iron Man. Play Tony Stark. It is a rich character you can adapt into a fantasy setting.
As soon as they came out with the Psionic Knight or the Psi Knight from, I made Revan from Star Wars. Like as soon as it happened, I went to D&D Beyond and I was like, I'm making Revan. I am so happy I've got Revan now. And it's just that's the way it is. It's if I had a nickel for every Dritz the Drow clone that I have run a game for in this world, I would have enough nickels to beat players to death with. But I'm fine with it because it's what makes them happy.
Yeah.
Someone's like, I want to play Dritz. Okay, play freaking Dritz, man. It's like,
and as a storyteller, we can take that, go with that player and be like, okay, what is it you like about that person? I like that he's wielding dual scimitars and has an animal companion. Okay, cool. We can run with that. And now let's take that trope and twist it just a little bit to make it yours.
Exactly.
So
there's a reason that tropes are popular. Like they're popular for a reason. Nothing wrong with that.
Tropes are fun to play with.
Exactly.
And people get what you're going for really fast. And then whenever you twist it and put a turn on it, they see it because they know what they're trying to expect around it. So it makes for an easy relatability to what you're doing and how you're approaching things. Another example of like building off of stuff outside of just tropes. One of my best friends has built the last several characters in various campaigns that he's played in around Disney characters.
I love that.
He has done Maui from Moana. So his half-orc fighter, Battlemaster fighter, would run around telling everybody you're welcome after he saved them. Like things along those lines. Even
if they have broken legs, broken heart, you're welcome.
He had a tabaxi that was super curious into every new little shiny thing that was based off of the Little Mermaid.
Love it.
Like it's such a fun way to take a concept and then turn it into your own as you go.
I think that's the important part too. You don't want to take the whole trope. You like what do you love about it, and like take that and make that the core of what you build off of.
I'll give you an absolute fantastic example in Straterra. When Gabriel was designing Ben and we were talking about Ben coming into it, he says Doctor Strange. And he took that idea and like completely ran with it and created Benjamin. And it's an amazing character with incredible depth. It's like if you didn't know like he had that idea of Doctor Strange and as an inspiration. Because I don't think of him as tropes. I think of it as inspiration for the character. It's like
that's a better word.
Yeah.
It's like, oh well, I want to play a Goliath, Conquest Goliath. Okay, he's inspired by Thanos. All right, that's awesome. It's an inspiration for the character that you make your own.
I want to make that character now.
Just go into the Thanos wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love it when the villain has a valid argument.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's the best villains.
Oh yeah.
And like an example of a character that I've played that is a trope is I made Brick, who's a Warforged barbarian. He's the Iron Giant or Baymax. Like he's like the big robot who's like too lovable to hurt things, but also he would just rage and hurt things. And so it's like you said, like Brick was just like he loved animals and like holding things, and they had to literally push him to fight, and he was like, I'd rather not. Until like
let's be honest, there was a whole side quest in that campaign to go rescue him because he was keeping the Ring of Winter from his party.
But that reminds me, like here recently, Gabriel and I have dipped back into Destiny 2. It's a game that we both loved, lore-wise. We got reintroduced to an amazing character called Saint 14. And the more they went into Saint 14, he's the big Titan, he's the Knight, he's the big Iron guy. He's also their universe's version of a Warforged, he's an Exo. But the more you dip into his character, he loves birds and pigeons, and he's constantly talking about walking throughout the city and playing with the kids and picking them up and putting them on his shoulders and playing soccer and like all this other stuff. He's your warrior. He's known as one of the pinnacle titans in the game, but he's sweet and one of the most heartfelt, wholesome titans ever. And it's like, that's, to me, that's bucking a stereotype. That's completely going against it. That's taking a trope, that's taking a normal thing you see in a game and flipping it on its head and making it your own.
And absolutely, if you want to draw your inspiration from any other literary reference at all, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, like make those characters and then twist them just a little bit so that they become personal.
And don't let anybody tell you that's not D&D, or don't let anybody tell you that's not RPGs, or don't let anybody tell you, because it's your story. It's what you want to do, and it's fine.
Everyone's creativity in fantasy is built off of their exposure to other creativity in fantasy.
Exactly.
Nobody comes up with all this stuff straight out of their head. Or if they do, then they've written books and are now worth a lot. But you know what? Like, the vast majority of people are influenced. Even them. The vast majority of anyone that creates is influenced by what they have experienced in their life. There's nothing wrong with pulling on that experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
You should pull on that experience. That's how you relate to it.
Those are the best stories.
It's like, you want to play an edgelord rogue? Play an edgelord rogue, but have him have a quirk that he secretly donates all the money to an orphanage he was raised in.
Yep.
That's beautiful. or he's a gardener.
Or it's just be an edgelord, be an ass to everybody, but he has that one thing that the party discovers about himself that shows depth to his character.
Absolutely.
I love it. I think we may have beat this one as far as we can beat it.
Yeah, I think so. What we got next?
That was a good one.
It was very good.
Too soon, Geeks Unleashed. Too soon.
Yeah, too soon, bro.
Okay. So,
hey, Carney Sideshow, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Moving on to the third one, brought to us yet again by TikTok, called "Love Some Good Pens" and Bailey Girl, which actually I do love me some good pens because I do like to write everything by hand. It's just a tactile feel. I write all my D&D notes. So, how much do you collaborate with the storyteller when building your backstory? That's a good one.
I don't tell the DM anything.
Lies.
So, it's not who wants to take this one?
I'll get us started. As a storyteller, I like to collaborate with my players to help them get a feel for what the setting is, and then like little bits and pieces, nudges here and there to help them get a breadth of what is going on around them. But Bill and I have had many years of this, writing pages and pages and pages of information back and forth to each other, and sometimes as a storyteller, I think it's really important to remember that it's your job to set the setting and to collaborate that setting just a little bit with your players. But there is a point where it is too much.
Well, that's what I was about to say.
I'm sorry, Gabe.
With
no, not that.
With Straterra, my world is Straterra. Those that do watch us know that it's got over 20 years worth of player-driven history. And what I mean by player-driven history is every character that's come in, every player, every campaign has built into the history of the world. It stays. Um, I let
Canon.
every I
It's all
let
canon.
every character or every player build a little bit of the world. It forces me. I don't flesh it out until until they either go there or they do something like, and especially with all of these races in this world existing since second edition, all of these new races being brought in, I don't want to say no to a player. I really don't. So Jacob comes across to me. He goes, "I want to play a Furbog. Furbog's never been in my world before.
Oh
So
snap!
how do we explain it?" So Jacob and I talk, and we decided that Furbogs are going to be like the Bigfoots of my world. They're mythical creatures that some think exist and some don't. And so then I build on that. Why are they mystical? Or why are they a mystery? Oh, because they are tribes of barbarians that live in different parts of the world, protecting it from certain unknown evils. And so we grow into that. Gabriel decides he wants to play a Magister from ancient Arcadia. Up until not now, it was like Valeria in Game of Thrones. It was known of. It was this country that fell apart, but he wants to play it. So how does he live and survive to the time period it's now? Oh, he was trapped in the Dreamlands, a world that's very synonymous with H.P. Lovecraft's work, which is very much a part of my world. Um, and he comes out of the Dreamlands into the modern day, and so he has to face the fact that what he knows is ancient history and ruin, and it's his character's going through that trauma right now.
Yeah, it is.
And it allows me to flesh out Arcadia more. It's like I've got to explain
Yeah.
this, I got to explain that. It's like every character that comes into your world is a chance at you being a storyteller to grow it and allow the players to help you grow it, because this is, a lot of people forget, this is a communal story told by everyone. GM
Love that
just
storytelling.
Yeah, the GM just handles the rules sometimes.
Yeah,
Sorry,
everyone's a storyteller. It's really important that everyone tells the story. And sometimes, like, a character will bring something to the table that you didn't think about. And, a DM can only think of so many things for their world. And sometimes when you're brainstorming a campaign before it begins and someone comes in and they're like, I have this idea for this really cool thing. And you look at your map and you've got a blank spot on your map and you're like, that would be perfect right there. Holy smokes. And there's nothing wrong with helping them writing into your world. You might be the narrator, but everyone's telling the story together. That includes the history.
In terms of like how much do you collaborate and things along those lines, this also touches on another one that we nixed a little bit for tonight for the sake of having a number of questions we could actually get through, is how much backstory is too much backstory, right? So like that collaboration with the DM, like fill that out as much as you need to, as much as they want to have that open communication back and forth with them. But I cannot stress this enough. Don't try and fill every hole. Leave them open. Have things you don't know about your character.
It's that thing we talked about, Jacob.
You will learn about your character as you go.
You want the open backstory.
Yeah.
A forward-facing backstory.
Forward-facing backstory. Like, you don't
Yes.
want to have, like, small details and little things are super important to figure out, but you don't necessarily have to have all those out the gate. You may decide on your way that you're a coin collector, and then, retroactively apply that somehow. Like, talk to your DM, fill it in, however, whatever. Decide on those things as you go. Learn it as you play the game. Let it be an organic thing that happens, and let your DM surprise you.
Well, go ahead.
Allowing there to be not every nth degree of your backstory filled out gives the DM room to tell a story with you that will be able to surprise you.
Your backstory shouldn't be a complete story.
Correct.
You don't need to write a backstory that develops a fully rounded character that has no growth. Your backstory is chapter 1 of the overall story. Your backstory is introduction of your character. If you write your backstory to where you have accomplished all you wanted to accomplish in your backstory because you're afraid you're not going to do it in the campaign, you're not going to have fun. You're just
Yeah,
not.
there's nothing left to accomplish.
And never ever write the idea of your character around a weapon, a piece of armor, or just something that absolutely destroys your character if it's gone. And that's not just because it gives the DM something to mess with. You're not going to have fun because part of the fun in D&D is the loot along the way.
I'm gonna go rewrite all. I'm gonna go rewrite Oliver now. Sorry.
They're thinking about a couple of the questions that we kind of merged into one to make this manageable. One of them was specifically like, how much of that forward thinking do you work with? Do you work into your background with your GM? And there is a valuable and viable place for forward planning as you're creating a story. For instance, say I want to play a someone who will eventually become a paladin, somebody who's questing to become a paladin.
Right.
That is something that I'll go to Patrick and be like, hey, DM, I want to, like, this is something I want to experience this journey with, however that fits within the storyline. And just that little bit of, hey, here's something I would like to achieve as a character. Gives your GM a huge breadth of opportunity to be able to develop into their story. But if I say I want, to hit this beat and this beat and this beat and this beat and this beat, at that point you are single-handedly writing a book.
Right.
As the GM, as the storyteller, because GM is not every story. Sometimes you're a storyteller, sometimes you're a dungeon master, etc. As the storyteller, collaborating with players, I think, is super important. But that word collaboration is the important part. And as a player, we have a responsibility to kind of approach that tit-for-tat collaboration with the storyteller. It'll make your story so much more interesting.
Also, the story changes.
We did that out the gate with Amok from your Salt and Winds game. Like, he started off as a paladin, and there's a lot of the whole multi-class paladin warlock type stuff, but he essentially transitioned from levels, like, we started at level 3. He was a level 3 paladin. And then for the next several levels, it was all warlock. Like, as that story progressed, because that's what his story was pointed toward. That's how it all tied in. And we had that conversation ahead of time of like, hey, I, like, through these things and how we kind of talked about this, I think this makes more sense for him to, like, transition towards a warlock, but I don't want to start there. Like, and we worked with that, and it built into it.
Right.
Like, I didn't know what kind of warlock I wanted to be. Like, I didn't have anything decided around the subclass or how any of that was going to work. I wound up making suboptimal mechanical choices based off of what the story meant and how it progressed through that time. I knew I was going to take levels in Warlock, but I didn't know what.
Yeah. Those are the best choices, though.
I don't hammer a lot of stuff home with my players. I don't bark rules or things have to be this way. But the one thing I do say repeatedly to my players is do not play a game with a set end goal of your character. Let the story develop your character. Let the world develop your character. Let the experiences, the adventures, let that determine where your character ends up. Like, you can say, well, I'm going to play a paladin that becomes a warlock. Okay, you have that idea, but don't fight the story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Go with the flow. And it's like, maybe not, It's like, I'm playing in a Avernus game right now, and I'm playing a Minotaur. I wanted to play a Minotaur Paladin. I wanted to play the Holy Cow. That was my goal. It's the battle cattle. But if you read about Minotaurs, they are worshippers of Baphomet. They are evil. So I wrote Abel, his name is Abel, to be the run of the litter. And, he was constantly picked on. And so he grew up not wanting to be like the Minotaurs. So he became a paladin of Ilmater. And, through his background, he met a priest of Ilmater that died in a fight, and it influenced him to join the temple. So and he's now in Avernus. He was up in Baldur's Gate. No one really paid attention to him because he was a Minotaur. No one really trusted him as a paladin because he's a Minotaur. Now he's in Avernus. He's doing a lot of good as a paladin. His power of his god is allowing him to do a lot. So he's now having character conflict. He doesn't want to leave. Because he's doing more good in hell than he ever did on the material plane. And that's pretty big.
I have like one little comment before I want to take the Geek Unleashed comment, but I this might be just me as a writer, and I haven't played as a player very long. I've been a DM forever, and I like to come to a DM with an idea of a story I want to tell with my character. So when I came to Gabe, and I can say this now because we know about it, with Reese, I said, I want to tell the story of someone who's like, branded as a witch by their community, and like how they deal with that. And I think that would be a really cool thing. I had no idea that Reese would take on this kind of like almost parental figure of like shepherding people with magic. Like, I literally had no idea that was going to happen, but fluidly that happened in the story, and that's such a better moment for him as a character to go through that.
It's been a really fun development around all of that.
So there's no goal. It's just, here's the story I want to tell, and it could easily change. And way better outcome.
You guys are currently riding north, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. But I like this question from Geek Unleashed. What are the best options for people that don't have a lot of players in their circle but want to play? First of all, I hate lots of players. I have DM'd for 9 people at one time, and it was a nightmare.
I think my max is 8, but
8 was a lot. 9 was too much.
I did 9 for a Ravenloft campaign back in 2nd edition, and when it came to a point where I had to have a little bitty table and they had to stand up like a lunch line to tell me their actions in combat, I called
form the conga line.
Yeah, stand up in line in your initiative order.
To kind of target your question a little more, man. If you're interested in playing, your local game shops. Most of them that sell TTRPG, tabletop RPG, D&D, all of those different systems, they will have some sort of board. Players wanted, DM wanted, etc. board, kind of old school, but I still see game shops all over the country that have that.
Yes.
You can also hop, if you are still being super cautious in the COVID age, you can hop on the forums for Roll20 or the platform we use, Astral Tabletop, or any of the other D&D Beyond, all of these virtual tabletop options that will have forums with people looking for groups. LFG,
it's so easy now.
LFG is a thing you will see all the time in that context. It's looking for group. Really, really easy to reach out and find folks either in your community locally or nationally.
Absolutely.
Let me say this, and for those people that have social anxiety, that don't want to go out to a local hobby shop, that are nervous about meeting new people, honestly, that don't want to be on camera, that just wants to role play through voice, there's several of options. Back during, I had a job before I have a job now, but it's like I had a job before,
phrasing matters.
Before pandemic. I had a job that took all of my life away. I barely saw my brother Gabriel. I barely got to play D&D, and I realized that the only stable nights I had off were Sunday nights. So I got on D&D Beyond, their forums, and I said, experienced gamer looking for a 5e D&D game, only free on Sunday nights. And between this time, it wasn't a day I had a message from an amazing group in California that I'm still playing with to this day, and I play with the Forever DMs. I've got two streams going, playing in Thrain. I host this talk show. We do everything we can for the stream, but every Sunday night I am playing D&D with my friends in California because they're an amazing group of people. And
and for context, 3 of us on this screen live in one state, and one of us lives in a totally different state.
Yep.
So there are options out there for not being physically in the same space.
It's a totally different game now.
And
man, like when I was a kid, it was totally like,
and depending on the
playing on the internet, no way.
And there's so many different ways to tell your story. Like there's I've been hanging out with a lot of people from the Twitter TTRPG domain of late, and the ideas of people that have come up with where they're putting together entire discords for text-based storytelling.
Old muds are coming back.
Like, it's literally just literally building worlds in text and letting people chime in here and there to add to things as they can. Like, if you don't have every Sunday night to play, you literally don't have a regular schedule. There are things out there for anybody. You just gotta look for them.
Yep.
They exist.
That's one reason I like the idea of Adventure League. Adventure League, every experience I've had with it, it's not really role play. It's a lot of number crunchy. But for D&D, if you just want to play D&D, it's good drop in, drop out D&D games. And and I like the rule set of Adventure League. It's got a good idea. You know, it's got a good format. I like where they're going in this day and age with the idea of Adventure League.
For a little clarification, Adventure League or other programs like it are prepackaged sets of games sponsored by and arranged by whoever the producer is. So Wizards of the Coast, for D&D, they create a series of adventures, and then that gets sent out to all the local game shops, and they have somebody run that adventure. It is a really, really cool format. Go ahead.
No, it's just everybody goes by the same rule set. And so if you have an Adventure League character and you walk in and you say, oh, my character's between level 4 and 5. And they're like, okay, what adventure were you on? Oh, I was in Tomb of Annihilation. Okay, well, the 4 and 5 Tomb of Annihilation table is over there. Go join them. And you go and you set in and you pick up right where you left off. It's like a save point in a video game. It's an amazing idea.
It's a really cool system, and they've actually handled it really, really well. It's for something that I've never directly myself gone and interacted with, but I've done a lot of reading up on it. I never had the opportunity to jump into DMing for one of the local game shops around here like I wanted to for it. But the concept of it is super cool. And I have heard so many great stories of people that have had really good experiences with it. I'm sure there have been plenty otherwise as well, as there can be with any new table of people that you go to join. Not every table is for everyone, but that's okay. Everybody has the game that they want to play. You just got to find other people that want to play the same game you do.
My Irish Catholic grandmother always told me not every kid is meant to play together on the playground.
So our dear friends at Geek Unleashed hope that helped for seeking out being able to play, especially if you don't have a lot of players in your circle. It's really easy to go to your local game shop, hop on any of these virtual tabletop settings to be able to find a group to play with, either locally or digitally. And with that, I think
we can move on to the next question.
Move on to the next one. We got up next.
So up next, we have a question from, I'm going to go ahead and skip that one for now. I'm going to go to one of these TikTok questions down below. From Tiger Onyx from TikTok. How do you approach making a character different from other similar skills? And I think they mean like if you have 2 rangers or 2 warlocks in the party.
If I may on this one, this is something that I love how much our group does with things. Think of thematic flair of how your character goes about things. Not every spell looks the same in D&D. Gabe casting Magic Missile may look different from Bill casting Magic Missile, may look different from Patrick casting Magic Missile. The Warforged may not use standard lock picks. Maybe they come out of their hands. Have a flair around things so that you have your own feel to how things happen. Have that communication with your party of what everybody's doing. Like, if you want to have that conversation up front, I strongly suggest it. I always like to know generally what's going on just so that nobody's stepping on each other's toes too much. But you can take anything and reskin it. this is not intended as a tooting my own horn thing, but I came up with an idea for how to tackle Oliver as a barbarian who is a shamanistic, like he's what's called a bone speaker in his tribe. Like he is not a warrior by trade, but he's kind of pushed into it. And I am playing him as a ancestral guardian barbarian and an echo knight. Echo Knight thematically, the way it is written, does not fit this at all. However, the skinning for all of it, of how I have approached it, is that it's more delving into his ancestors. Right? So, like, the echo that you're summoning for it is a materialization of one of his ancestors. It's a constant interaction with that. So as he gets new things, it's tied into that in some way. And I find different ways to approach that in different ways. When he rages, it's not a blind rage. It's a state of mind where he's able to see his ancestors in different ways. And that can apply to skills, that can apply to magics. You name it, you can reskin it. There's nothing that says that you can't embrace it, be creative, have fun with it.
I love that we use the phrase reskin offhandedly or skinning things and without any context or explanation.
Right.
I was just like, ooh, I hope people
Let's
know
just
what
skin
that
them all. I had a good example that worries me sometimes when I start a new campaign is when we started Rain, I built everything about Reese about medicine. And immediately in the first combat with the whole party, another character starts walking up and like taking care of the healing, and I was like, "Mother, like what am I supposed to do?" And then honestly, it turned out into a really good roleplay opportunity where two characters had a shared bond of something that they did together, and they both were good at it, but they had different ways of doing it. One of them had a more natural remedy, and the other one had more of a medicinal, like surgeon's look. And it even if it's the same thing in skill. You can come at it from a different angle, and if better, you can tell a good story about it because you have a shared bond.
Well, you guys covered the reskinning and the thematics pretty well. I'll go into the mechanics of it. Like, so, let's say you have two people that want to play two different rangers. Not all rangers have to be shooty. True. There are some rangers that are amazing melee fighters. Not all fighters have to be melee fighters. Some of the fighters can be shooty, and it's just that there's enough options, there's enough subclasses, enough feats out there that you could have two characters of the same class and be amazing. I can sit here and play a cleric and make a war cleric that never heals, that's an amazing frontline fighter, and then Patrick play a cleric who's a straight up healer. Two sides of the same coin, same class, but amazingly different, and works hella good together.
Like Uguay and Clement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
One was a pure healing, and one was bring down the thunder of divine power.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. There are so many different ways to approach characters that even if you have those overlaps, it's really, really easy to switch it up a little bit. The great example of the natural remedies versus the medicinal. That is the medicine skill, or the working with an herbalist kit, but still totally different approaches and works super well in roleplay. You can take a smith, for instance, somebody who has skill in D&D skill and blacksmithing tools. You could have one of those smiths, maybe an armorer, couldn't make a sword to save his life, but he's an armorer. Right. Or you have somebody with woodworking skills. Maybe they're a bowyer or a fletcher. Maybe maybe they don't know how to build a house, but they can build a cart for you.
That's a horrible shot.
Like Reese.
I mean, this is a real life example. I was trained as a carpenter. I do not call myself a carpenter. I'm a cabinet maker, and it's a very distinctive distinction that people make. Like, I don't build houses. I don't put things together in grand scale. I do fine tuning, sanding, and manipulating little elements. Totally different thing, but they both work with wood on the same level.
Yep.
But
go ahead, Bill. I'm sorry.
I was about to say, if it goes into it, if you're going into a game and you're having your session 0, and you find out that you and your buddy are both going to play a warlock, or you and your buddy are both going to play a cleric, or you and your buddy are both going to play a fighter, you know what? Talk to them. Say, hey, I want you to play what you want to play, and I want to play what I want to play. But let's try to figure out how we can be different. Why don't you merge your backstories? Maybe you guys are best friends, but you're actually secretly rivals, to where you focused on the differences of of each other. You know, it's like, I'm a better fighter, I'm a better shooter. You know, it's just lean, as I love to say, and I say it all the time, steer into the skid. If the skid is bothering you, steer into it. You know, and you'd be surprised at what you'll find.
Yeah, I have an excellent example from Tiffer's cosplay, who's here. We both made warlocks for a one-shot, and we were like, hey, we're both playing warlocks. And so we decided to be twins, and we decided to flavor it. So one of us did light, and the other one did shadow. And we did different themes, same spells, same abilities, but it was such a cool thing to play twin characters that had functionally the same class, but you could be totally different or make a cool story from it.
And don't ever feel like you have to change or homebrew rules just to make your character the way it is. I made an amazing, speaking of warlocks, I made an amazing warlock. I've played in 2 one-shots, and to this day, he might end up being my next character. I took a warlock of the undead, which is now, come out and Gabriel's already laughing. I made a character who was an artist, and his undead patron is his overbearing mother. And I love it. It takes a special DM, because as soon as you miss with an Eldritch Blast, all of a sudden you hear in the back of your head, you missed with that Eldritch Blast because you never call.
Maybe someday you'll be as good as your brother.
Let's see. When was the last time you visited Aunt Sarah?
Are you gonna give me grandkids?
You haven't put flowers on my grave in 3 months.
There are so many different ways to approach these characters.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. 100%. The collaboration between players in those situations, I think, is clutch. And as much as we had the conversation about having those plannings with the DM around backstory and everything along those lines, do it with the other players at your table too. Like, have those joint backstories if you want to. Why not?
Oh, that reminds me of the brothers. Great example here. It was another game with a different group of people where we played a series of brothers. I threw out there, who wants to have linked backstories?
And we all said, sure.
The whole group did.
Yeah.
And so we started with, okay, I started this, so I'll be the oldest. And so I was the oldest, and then, Dad got remarried, and so then there's the next kid. And then there's the adopted kid from the family workshop, and then there's the adopted kid from the wilds, and so we all found a way to be incorporated together. But within that context, every character was connected.
This was my favorite part of how these characters developed.
So Jacob was playing a monk. So the other, it was the druid, took a few levels in monk because he sparred with his brother.
I love that.
Right. And then the second brother was an archer, and then that comes down to Jacob's character.
So I played a Kinsai monk, and
love it,
and focused on longbows.
So we intentionally all had the same skills or similar skills. There was overlap with everybody in the party. So communication with each other, communication with the GM, and finding a way to work together with that to tell very different characters, because we were all so different. But we had this overlap of skills that fit thematically and mechanically very
fun.
Well.
It was really fun to build out the start of that with everybody. It was super, super fun. And it all happened so organically as soon as we started talking about it. It just went and ran.
Yep. Oh, so Bill, I kind of want to ask you this next question because I think you talking about your warlock and talking about Den and whatnot. I think you are so good at this that I want to ask you this.
Okay.
So as a storyteller or as a character, how do you approach making characters quickly for things like one shots, but still keeping it interesting?
This question brought to you by Sean F. Smith of TikTok.
Yeah, I was about to say that. So, since I've been called out by Gabe of being
You have.
Mainly because every character I like to do a comedy aspect of. Even with Jubei, like he ended up having dad jokes that I'm trying to play off as cultural differences. But I always, because I've played so many freaking characters throughout my experience of playing D&D, I have to have something interesting for me to maintain my interest. So it's like the warlock with the overbearing mother, the drunken master monk who's a halfling and Irish. You know, it's things like that I have to do, and typically I look and all I ask myself is like, okay, I want to do this one shot. What would make this character funny? And one shot that I did here recently is I really, really wanted to play a Fey Wanderer Ranger. Like, very badly. And I was like, okay, so Fey Wanderer Ranger, she is from the Feywild. Okay, so it's going to be a girl. It's going to be from the Feywild. All right, let's do something. What's something that'll fit? Okay, a satyr. Satyrs are fun. I haven't played a satyr yet. I was like, okay, so why is she in this world? Okay, well, she's traveling. She's a tourist. She's a perpetual tourist from dimensions. What's her name, Bill? Rand McNally. And it's that, and all of a sudden the character's born, and within 5 minutes I have this really amazing character. I have this idea, and it's like that's what I really want to do. It's the same practice I do when I come up with memorable NPCs on the fly. Like I really want to come up with a memorable NPC on the fly. It's what's going to make this character stick out. What's going to it's like Boblin the Goblin. It's going to be.
He's so cute.
It's got to be something that's going to make this character interesting, and it's not going to be her skill set. It's not going to be the weapons she's carrying or the armor. It's a personality. It's something that's going to stick out. And so I think of a personality I want to play, and it's like for one shot I ended up playing I wanted to play a barbarian dwarf. Like, it's like, hey, I haven't played a barbarian dwarf in a long time. I just named him Hamish Agnes Fergus McAgus, and he is they call him Fergie, but he is a caber tossing champion. He's like, oh, you had to hurt me. It's like, I come here and I toss cabers all the time. It's like, we don't know. You don't know who I am. And it's an amazing character. Like, I have fun. I'm cracking myself up. And if I'm cracking myself up, I hope everybody else enjoys it too, because I'm going to be annoying as hell.
Quick one-shots are a really fun way to flex your comedic and creative muscles. I can't remember all the characters from that last one-shot you did with Andrew and Zach, Jacob, but there was a orc in that who really, really, really loved lollipops. Mm-hmm. And he would follow whoever had the bag of lollipops and do whatever they wanted. Didn't matter. Lollipops.
That's great. I think straight to the question, one of the things that I love, especially when someone proposes a one-shot or something, this actually came up with someone who did a one-shot with pre-generated character sheets. You kind of showed up and you already had a character sheet with a class and race. The only thing that isn't in a character sheet is the personality, the voice, the character, the mannerisms. And so I can come to a table and look at a character sheet and be like, okay, well, that's great. This is how I mechanically function, but I'm not playing chess. Like, what am I sound like? Why am I here? Or that joke from all the movies, what's my motivation? There's so much for it. Someone threw me in as the bard, and I don't like playing bards. So I played, Bill mentioned, the grandma, that gives inspiration is like chiding remarks of like, you're doing it wrong, do it again, like all that stuff. And like,
do it better.
because I didn't want to be a boring bard, and I ended up turning my dagger into like the shears, like the cutting shears for sewing. They're the good shears, and like I had a spoon ladle that was my wand. Like there's so many things you can do to change a character without actually mechanically changing the character.
It's like
Don't
Dice
you
so
Clay.
good.
dare cut anything but hair with the good shears.
I think that's such a great way to word it, though. You're talking about, how do you quickly come up with things that are memorable? Forget the mechanics.
Yeah.
Mechanics do not matter. If you want to quickly make a character that's interesting, think about the personality first.
And that's what I like about the Forever DMs, which I would love to do this sometime, of just make 5 of the exact same character, class, stats, and everything, and hand it out and see how many different personalities come out.
I'm in. Let's do it.
I think we should do an all cleric party, and they call the Amen.
Yeah, I mean, it's but
I'm all for it.
To share his sentiment, I'm not a big fan of bards either. And my biggest complaint of bards is everybody wants to play the musical bard. And so when we did our Extra Life one-shot, I said, okay, I want to play a bard, but I want to be an insult comic, and I want to be a kobold.
Even better.
And so Dice Clay was born. And I had a lot of fun playing Dice Clay. But yeah, it's like, that's just the way it is. It's like personality can make or break a character.
Yeah. You got to strip it down and rebuild it.
To tie this back to something that we talked about earlier of like basing things off of other people and characters, one shots are my favorite time to do that.
Yes.
So the Eberron one shot that we did not long ago, my character was based off of Korg from Thor Ragnarok. Mechanically, that is not like the race that I chose or anything along those lines. I wound up going with a rogue, and we were in Eberron, so it became a Warforged. But like the personality was where it all started, and it was just like, sweet. I don't even care what I play because I'm gonna play Korg.
Yes.
That game. The only thing I remember about my character, literally, is that I spent the whole game running up and down the train. But I remember all of your other characters.
Yep.
I remember them all.
Yep.
I remember being emotionally drained for the first time.
Yeah.
Why? Because we had you playing 4 different scenes at one time?
And we triggered them all.
You're talking about a DM flex. That was me being put through my paces.
You're very welcome.
Because never did the party did not just separate. The party scattered and had at one time 5 separate storylines.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Going
It was
on.
awful. It was
I
awful.
That was.
I was like, oh, and here we go.
but like honestly, a one shot's the perfect time to experiment too. Like if it's something
Not
you
that
want to
way.
do that you've never done.
Well, maybe that way. Why not?
I love that for a one shot.
Yeah. But come up with an idea of something that sounds fun, and then figure out the mechanics around it otherwise.
Or steal something.
It's a one shot.
Yeah.
It's a one shot. It's like the first pancake. It's always a
Like
throwaway.
Korg.
Korg was such a throwaway.
Look, I built a bridge. Took me what? 2, maybe 3 seconds.
I totally forgot. I was Phase with Vincenzo from Atlantis.
Yeah.
I told myself, I said, Patrick's going to try to sever a train car with explosives.
I had to. I had to.
And I knew it was going to happen. I was like, I don't care how many magical wards are around this freaking thing.
I'm going to blow something up.
Yeah, I'll let it do it.
I'm still sad my
those
my
big
portable hole
paperclip.
didn't work.
Yeah, that was bad.
I'm so glad my character died because he was such an embarrassment. He went down in legend, though.
He did.
It was good.
My favorite part was Gabriel sitting here going, I made a face character and now I'm by myself. I'm so useless.
to come back because we're gonna ramble here.
Oh man.
Making interesting characters for one shots, or any game really, is find a piece of a personality or a character from something a TV show you watch. Hell, I was thinking about a character, making them Lucifer from the show Lucifer. Like, just make that character and then twist it around and figure out a way to make it a mechanical character after the fact.
Or also, if you play D&D a lot, there's nothing wrong with taking a character that the other players at the table have never seen before and throwing them in there for the one shot.
Absolutely.
You know how to play that character. You know what to do. They don't know what that character's like. It's perfect.
Play a character.
Or pull a character they do know.
Also that.
Like, how did I get here?
Oh, are you kidding me? I'm gonna play Chirp in so many one shots.
I can't wait to see Chirp pop in.
Yeah,
skipping in from somewhere else. It's gonna be so good.
Gotta do it. Gotta do it.
This is we've largely stayed or tried to stay a little more TTRPG agnostic, but from D&D specifically around this, if you are just blanking on coming up with something that you really want to play, there are tables for everything. And part of the 5e character generation that oftentimes gets looked over is in the features, traits, and like descriptions, the personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws.
And there's no reason that can't be used with another TTRPG.
Absolutely.
Or Xanathars.
You can use those tables for anything, and Xanathars is a great example of being able to use stuff for literally anything. All the way down to rolling names of different cultures. There's so much stuff in that book that is usable across so much more than just D&D. But legitimately, roll those and come up with them. There are things that I am currently doing with Selu in our Thrain game that I wasn't sure how to go about them, how I was going to portray a few different things differently. I rolled it. I looked at what was there, and I found something that was like, I can work with that. That sounds interesting to bring out at table. How do I convey that in a fun way? There's nothing wrong with random rolling anything, ever.
No.
I'll give you another great option. If you just want to come up with something quickly, there's a website called fantasynamegenerators.com.
That's a good one.
We have all used that at some point. And if, shoot, we're in the middle of a game and I need a dwarvish name. All right, Hamish, cool. But they have a character description generator.
Yes.
And so literally I just typed it in, and here is a blonde-haired, green-eyed person who's been living in isolation for most of their life. They're a true explorer amongst the dark elves, but they stand towering above others. So, he's a super tall dark elf who lives in isolation. Cool, I've got character rolling now. And this is all literally randomly generated. So if you're ever having a hard time, there are resources out there.
I will give a better website that I prefer, and I'm going to drop my one F-bomb for the episode. It's called whothefuckismydndcharacter.com. It's one of my favorite websites. You can click it, and you can just keep clicking the button, and it'll give you one. And it says, I'm going to roll stats for a fucking sweet halfling wizard from the Black Citadel who failed to protect the royal family. You click it again. Now it's a guarded dragonborn sorcerer from a boarding school who acts shallow but only hides their insecurities. It's just some of them are awful, some of them are great. They are just random tidbits, and those are the parts of a character that are way more fun than the class.
Sometimes all it takes is a small thing to spark, and then everything else will just start falling in place.
Yep.
I love this website. Thank you
it's my favorite.
so much. That's getting bookmarked right now.
There's one along the lines of that, and it sounds like the two of them compared together would be amazing. There is a random, I can't think of it right now, I have it saved somewhere. There's a random D&D character generator website, and D&D Beyond does have a random generator as well. But this one website will create a one-page character. You choose the race, the class and the building system, point by whatever, and it just boom, it creates a character, gives it equipment, no matter what level, and it's perfect for one shots.
Nice.
I mean, you can do the same thing for D&D Beyond.
I love that.
But
so there, to come full circle back to the question, how do you approach making characters quickly for things like one shots? Random character inspiration from cartoons and movies and books. Random generators.
it's like, and it comes down to the fun. Like I said, it's like as soon as I came out with the Cyanite, I said I'm going to make Revan. It's like pick a character for a one shot and challenge yourself into making that character in D&D. It's like, could I make SpongeBob?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
And just ask yourself. It's just like make that character. And the funny thing is, one of the greatest, funnest aspects of doing that is not telling anyone you're doing it. And then halfway through, someone looks at you and goes, "You're Shaggy, aren't you?"
Did we get a hydrate ping? All right.
Yeah.
What's a hydrate ping?
Yeah, drink. Oh.
Mine's out, so I'll just hit the mic.
Oh man,
I just got an alert. My Ravenloft book is on the front porch. So.
That's exciting. I need to get one. I haven't ordered it yet.
Very nice. Very nice. I think I only did mine on D&D Beyond this time. I needed to double check whether or not I've got that. So it is quarter after, and I believe we have one question left.
One more. Yeah. All right. So last one. How do you prevent a character's game mechanics from locking them into a static role playing? Let's see. Example: Barbarian Rage runs in. Mark stuns baddie at every turn. Wizard is a counterspell battery.
I think
nothing wrong with being a counterspell battery.
There's not. Like, I don't know how to cast spells, but I know how to undo them.
Just unravel it all.
I think we've hit on this so many times tonight with
that's such a good point.
So
Tiver said,
go ahead.
Tiver's made a point, and she says that biggest rule for me is making a character they can start broken, but they can't stay that way. That also ties into this too, especially because the character features don't have to be a defining trait, and it can be part of that flaw.
Or in regards to Ben, he started a very cocky fellow.
Yep.
He's now broken.
He was in denial the whole time, and now he is face to face with his denial. Now
he's in the ocean.
Sheet. And for explanation with the anybody who hasn't caught the Breakfast and Dragons, he is from a long, long time ago. He's kind of a man out of time, and the world he knew is not the world that everybody else knew. He was from a very conquering and expansive and in some ways kind of cruel and meat grinder society. But he was a noble explorer and lived in the tower. And so now he's struggling his way through that.
I think this really comes down to me, be more than your mechanics.
Yes.
And that personality of your character is going to take you so much further in your game than anything that your mechanics define. That's why it's important to build these details of who they are, right? Because if you have those details, whatever you are mechanically, sure, be that thing. It doesn't matter. Your character is so much more than that.
And that's honestly the way it goes, is you're more than the numbers on the page. You're more than what's written on the page. If you want to play a character, you want to play a wizard, but you don't want to worry about having to counterspell every turn, play a wizard that counterspell is the one spell they've always stumbled over. It's like, I tried it, I just can't get it. It's like, and have that be an explanation of why you never take the spell. That's it's simple. It's just that's the way it goes. It's like you don't have to be a cleric that heals every round. You don't have to be a barbarian that rages all the time. It's like, a fantastic book series. And I just had it. on the tip of the first law. First Law series has an amazing barbarian character. You don't realize he's a barbarian until you're halfway through the second book, because they talk about how crazy this man is and how he has a reputation of being a murderer, but he's the sweetest guy ever. And he's constantly, whenever he gets into battle, he's talking to himself. He's like, not this time, not this time, not this time. And then as soon as he rages for the first time, he's like, you wanted it? Here it is. And he just absolutely is maniacal and bloodthirsty, like breaking a man's arm when the man is already submitted. It's just the over the freaking top. And then when he's done, he's full of shame and regret. And it's like, he's a fantastic fighter. He's an amazing fighter. It's just that rage is in his back pocket. He doesn't like using it.
Yes.
Sort of similar to Den in the Blade Singer.
Yeah.
That I was talking about earlier.
Go ahead, Patrick.
I think there's something really important and beautiful in a character, like Tiffany said about being broken, but like more importantly than that, of being afraid to do something or not doing something, and in the out of character sense, being bad at the game. Like a character that has a flaw or something they don't do well can be really cool for a story. And like Reese is a warlock and he can cast Eldritch Blast, which is the most overpowered cantrip. Everyone knows it, but he just doesn't want to fight ever, and he's too afraid to fight things. And like it tells a better story. I don't want to be the warlock that casts Eldritch Blast every round because that's like the thing. And so you can still have the feature that's key and important, but you can also stay away from it, like Bill was saying, or push it away, or reserve it for the moment.
It's like Jubei. He's a samurai. Stereotypical. Yes. They're supposed to love the sword fight. Gabe introduced us into a fighting competition. No. What does Jubei say? No, I don't have anything to prove.
That was so good.
Again, kind of like stepping away from the mechanics. If you think something makes for an interesting choice in a character, never be afraid to make a suboptimal mechanical choice.
Yeah.
There is nothing wrong with making the pick that makes sense for your character because it fits the theme of what you're going for. Be a warlock and don't take Eldritch Blast. Like, go for it. You want to do 2-weapon fighting, even though the general concept of 5e is that 2-weapon fighting is garbage. I don't care. Do it. That's what you want. Go for it.
Rule of cool.
If it comes down to it, you can always talk to your DM about changing things up to make it work, for things to balance out, whatever. Mechanics are easy to change. The thematics are what make your character who they are. Embrace that first, figure out the rest later.
If I may, I'd like to share a story. Second edition D&D, back in the day. So we did a game where we kept the rolls that we made in the stats that we made, and basically, back in the D&D terms, basically what ended up happening was we rolled 3d6s, dropped the lowest, re-rolled once. But normally you roll a stat block and you put the stats where you wanted to. DM wanted to do a flair to it. And he's like, don't have an idea what class you want, don't have an idea of what race you want. Let's roll, and wherever your stats fall, they fall. And we're like, okay, well, we'll try this. So right out the gate, I rolled an 18 in strength. And back during second edition, you rolled a percentile die on top of that, and this percentile die added to... no, it's complicated. It's a little bass backwards. So I rolled an 1899. Almost god-level strength. So we get all the way down to intelligence, and I rolled a 4. So in walks Krong, the half-ogre, who fought with a tree trunk. I played Krong up several levels and enjoyed playing this character. He couldn't talk. He could barely do anything. So it comes down to we're doing a dungeon crawl, and Krong sees the wizard levitate and walk over a pit. Krong tried to walk over the pit. Krong fell to his death. And to make it worse, the DM had me roleplay his death scene later on. with him with the giant spike sticking out of his stomach, and all he wanted was he was hungry.
Stomach
to this
hurt,
day,
he was hungry.
I remember this character because he was so fun to play, and it's such a flaw to have a low intelligence like that. But it was amazing. It's
love leaning into flaws.
yeah.
Then you can choose to make your character's mechanics a flaw.
Yes.
We've talked about this a couple of times. The take monk stunning strike in D&D, right? Maybe that's frowned upon.
I love my wife because this is now an unboxing video.
Ooh.
Yeah, shiny.
Oh, it's so shiny.
Wait. Most important part.
New book smell.
Oh
So
yeah.
good.
It smells like loneliness and rejection in high school.
Not anymore, man. D&D's cool. We missed it.
It's cool now.
Well, thank you. I think we may be kind
That's
of
it.
here at the end.
Yeah, we're wrapping up. Hour and 30 minutes is what we like to shoot for. We had to trim down a lot of questions. Usually we have to put filler questions, and I'm pretty excited. We had a lot of questions.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick, for getting
from
some
followers.
awesome questions fielded from your TikTok cult. Super fun.
So,
Just a cult.
do apologize we didn't have shooting a crit last time. That was on me.
We all needed a week off. That's all right. That's
Like,
okay
you
to
know
have
what?
those from time to time.
We're going to we're wanting to bring more content. It's like we'll put some polls out there. We did a poll for the one shot. Found out you guys want to see Mass Effect over Call of Cthulhu by one vote. But we're gonna do some more fun stuff. We're gonna put on our off Tuesdays. We're gonna find out if you guys want to see more of shooting a crit. If you want to see more of us trying to play video games together as D&D characters, maybe.
Oh.
See what happens.
In character the whole time.
It's like watch Gabriel and I, me almost in my 40s, him nearing there, trying to play video games with kids in Destiny 2. That's actually been pretty fun. That's been pretty funny. But yeah, it's like definitely the channel's growing. We appreciate it. It couldn't be without you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for following. Follow us on our Twitter. Follow us here. We're toying around with some things, so we'd like to end this by saying, be kind to everybody, and remember, kindness is a free action.
Yes. Yes, it is.
So,
Always.
and we love you guys. Thanks.
We do indeed. And don't forget, check out Go Figure.
Yes.
We are super pumped to be a part of what they've got going on. We've got ongoing talks going on with them around various things. So keep an eye on stuff, and we'll see what happens. The more you all jump in here with us and make this a thing, the more we get to do more with the channel and for you all, and that means more giveaways, more growth, things along those lines. None of us are looking to try and turn major profits on anything here. Our end goals involve charity streams and things along those lines. So the more we can do to put back into this and grow the channel and grow the community and do more around all of this, the more we get to experience all of this with you all. So thank you all so much for everything you've done for us so far.
Yep, just trying to help grow the community with everybody else.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome,
Have a
guys.
wonderful night, everybody.
Have a good night, everybody. We will catch you at Thrain next Tuesday.
Yes.
That is our next next time we will be online. Next Tuesday. Thrain, 7 p.m. This time slot. Yeah, we need to figure out what's going on there because there's some exciting stuff. Catch up on it if you haven't already watched.
Next Thrain next Tuesday at 7 p.m. EST.
7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I'm getting better. And that following Saturday, Breakfast and Dragons at 9 a.m. EST, while you guys find out what is in the Heretics tomb.
That one's gonna be intense.
we think we know, and we don't like it at all.
Oh, we
It's
know.
awful.
This is fine.
This is fine.
It's fine. All right, we can sit here and ramble all night. We're gonna bounce off.
Good night.
Have a good night,
I got a
everybody.
book to read.
Have a good night, y'all.